You know that feeling when you're the biggest fish in the pond, and then suddenly you swim into an ocean? That's what happens when an alpha male meets a sigma female. One minute you're running things, people respect you, you get what you want. The next minute you're sitting across from a woman who looks at you like you're a slightly interesting bug. And honestly, it messes with your head. That I've seen it happen more times than I can count. A confident, successful guy meets one of these women and he completely falls apart. He tries all his usual moves, the things that have always worked before, and she just doesn't respond. Not in a playing hard to get way. In a genuine, I literally do not care about your status way. And here's the thing that really gets under their skin. She's not trying to be difficult. She's not playing games. She just operates on a completely different frequency. While he's busy broadcasting on all the regular channels, trying to impress her with his job and his car and his connections, she's over here on some private wavelength wondering if he has anything interesting to say when the small talk runs out. So today, I'm going to break down exactly what it takes to date a Sigma female. Not the Instagram quotes version, not the theory, the real, messy, beautiful, terrifying truth about what happens when two powerful people try to build something together. 3 rules. If you can handle them, great. If you can't, trust me, she'll know within the first 5 minutes. Rule number 1. Check your ego at the door. Let me tell you about my friend Sarah. Sarah is what I'd call a classic Sigma woman. She runs her own graphic design business, travels alone to countries most people can't pronounce, and has this energy that makes rooms quiet when she walks in. Not because she's intimidating, exactly. More because people sense they're in the presence of someone who doesn't need anything from them. Anyway, Sarah starts dating this guy. We'll call him Mike. Mike is a successful lawyer, handsome, drives a car that costs more than most people's apartments. First few dates go great. They have chemistry, conversation flows, all that good stuff. Then comes date number 5. They're at this nice restaurant and Mike starts doing this thing. He's ordering for her without asking what she wants. He's interrupting her stories to add his own better versions. When the waiter makes a small mistake with the bill, Mike goes full alpha mode, demanding to speak to the manager, puffing up his chest, making sure everyone in the restaurant knows he's someone important. Sarah sits there quietly through all of it. She doesn't say anything. She just watches. Afterward, he drops her off, probably thinking he nailed it. Showed her he's a protector, a leader, a man who commands respect. He texts her the next day. No response. He calls the day after. Straight to voicemail. When she finally responds to his "what happened" message, she says something I'll never forget. She says, "Mike, I don't need a man to fight my battles. I've been fighting mine just fine for 32 years. What I need is a man who doesn't see every situation as a battle." And that's the thing about Sigma women that alpha men completely miss. When you're trying to prove you're the alpha, she's not hearing leadership. She's hearing insecurity. She's thinking, if this man needs this much external validation from waiters and strangers, what's going to happen when we have a real disagreement? Is he going to puff up and demand to speak to my manager too? I remember Sarah telling me later, the moment he started performing for the restaurant, I knew we were done. I don't want a performer. I want a person. This is where so many relationships between alpha men and Sigma women die before they even begin. The alpha thinks he's showing strength. The Sigma experiences it as noise. She doesn't want someone who needs to be the loudest person in the room. She wants someone who's so comfortable with himself that he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, including her. Think about the men that Sigma women actually end up with. They're rarely the guys with the biggest titles or the loudest voices. They're the ones who can sit in silence without needing to fill it. The ones who can let her have the last word without feeling like they lost something. The ones who understand that real power isn't about dominating conversations. It's about being present enough to actually hear what someone's saying. That there's this moment in every Sigma woman's life when she realizes the guy she's dating sees her as a conquest rather than a companion. And the second she feels that, it's over. You can't unfeel that. You can't come back from being a trophy he's trying to win.so. Rule 1. Check your ego at the door isn't really about humility. It's about authenticity. It's about showing up as a real person instead of a performance. And for a lot of alpha men, That's the scariest thing they'll ever do. Rule number 2. Respect her fortress of solitude. I have this theory about Sigma women and their alone time. You know how some people need coffee in the morning to function? Like, literally cannot form sentences until they've had their caffeine? For Sigma women, solitude is that coffee. It's not optional. It's not a preference. It's biological. I learned this lesson watching my cousin Elena go through something with her boyfriend that almost ended them. Elena is the most Sigma person I know. She's a marine biologist, spends months at a time on research vessels in the middle of nowhere. When she's home, she needs days, sometimes weeks, of what she calls horizontal time. Just lying on her couch, reading, thinking, not talking to anyone. Recharging, she starts dating this guy, David. David is great. He's successful, handsome, genuinely kind. Alpha in the best way. Confident without being arrogant, successful without being obnoxious. First few months are amazing. They're obsessed with each other. David loves that Elena is independent, that she has this whole rich inner world, that she doesn't need him to entertain her. Then something shifts. Elena comes back from a 6-week research trip exhausted. Like, soul tired. She tells David she needs a week to decompress alone. She'll call him when she's human again. Day 1, David is fine. Sends her one sweet text, gets a brief reply, all good. Day 2, he starts to wonder. Sends another text. She replies, but it's short. Day 3, he's spiraling. What if she's losing interest? What if something's wrong? What if there's someone else? So he calls. No answer. Calls again. Nothing. By evening, he sent 6 texts and left 3 voicemails. Day 4, Elena calls him and says something I will never forget. She says, David, I told you I needed a week. You've now made it clear that my needs are conditional on your anxiety. I can't be with someone who sees my self-care as a threat. He lost his mind. A week of silence is normal? Who does that? Who disappears for a week? And here's the thing. Elena wasn't disappearing. She was right there in her apartment doing exactly what she said she'd do. She was being honest. She was communicating her needs clearly. And David heard all of that as rejection because it didn't fit his framework of how relationships should work. This is the part alpha men struggle with most. You're used to pursuit. You're used to chasing and being chased. Constant connection feels like progress. Space feels like retreat. But for a Sigma woman, space is how she processes. It's how she misses you. It's how she figures out what she actually feels instead of what she's supposed to feel. When you crowd that space, you're not just annoying her. You're preventing her from doing the internal work that allows her to love you authentically. I asked Elena once what would have saved that relationship. She thought about it for a minute and said, if he'd had his own life. If when I went into my cave, he'd gone into his. If he'd been so busy with his own mission that my silence felt like an opportunity instead of an absence. And that's the truth. Sigma women aren't attracted to men who wait by the phone. They're attracted to men who have their own fortresses, their own missions, their own reasons to get out of bed that have nothing to do with anyone else. When she goes quiet, if you have your own life, you barely notice. You're busy. You're creating. You're building. And then when she comes back, you have something to share with each other. You're not two people who've been staring at their phones, waiting for the other to text. You're two whole people choosing to come together. The relationships that work, the ones that last, aren't the ones where two people are glued together. They're the ones where two people have full, rich, independent lives that they occasionally invite each other into. For Sigma women, that's not just nice. It's necessary. It's the only way they can love without losing themselves. Rule number 3. Master the art of intelligent challenge. My friend Jasmine has been married for 12 years to a man who, on paper, should drive her absolutely crazy. He disagrees with her constantly. Not in a mean way, not to be difficult, but because he genuinely has his own thoughts and isn't afraid to share them. I asked her once, how do you guys make it work? You're both so stubborn. She laughed and said, that's exactly why it works. Do you know how many men I dated who just agreed with everything I said? It was like dating a mirror. Boring. Infuriating. I'd say something and they'd nod and I'd think, great. Another person who wants me to do all the thinking. She told me about one guy she dated before she met her husband. Smart guy, nice, successful. But every time they talked about something real, he'd just mirror her opinions. She'd say she loved a movie, he loved it too. She'd share a political view. He happened to agree completely. She'd talk about a life philosophy. He'd been thinking the exact same thing. At first it felt nice. So much in common. So easy. Then it started to feel creepy. Then it started to feel lonely. She said, I realized I didn't actually know him. I knew a version of him that had been optimized to make me comfortable. And that's not a person. That's a product. This is where alpha men have a massive advantage if they can use it right. You're used to having opinions. You're used to leading, to taking positions, to standing for something. That's exactly what Sigma women are looking for. But here's the catch. They're not looking for someone to battle. They're looking for someone to dance with. There's a difference between challenging someone and fighting with them. Challenge is, I see you, I respect you, and I want to know all of you, including the parts that disagree with me. Fighting is, I need to be right and your wrongness threatens me. The men who win Sigma women aren't the ones who back down. They're also not the ones who need to win every argument. They're the ones who can hold their ground while also holding space for her to have hers. I think about Jasmine's husband, Marcus. The guy is brilliant, reads everything, thinks deeply, has strong opinions. But he also has this way of disagreeing that makes you feel seen instead of attacked. He'll say things like, that's fascinating. I see it completely differently. But tell me more about how you got there. Or, I'm not convinced, but I'm listening. That's the sweet spot. He's not backing down. He's not rolling over. He's also not making her wrong for having a different view. He's engaging. He's present. He's treating her mind as worthy of his full attention. Jasmine told me once, Marcus is the only person who can change my mind about something. Not because he's manipulative, but because when he disagrees with me, I actually want to understand why. I trust that he's not just trying to win. He's trying to find truth with me. And that's what Sigma women are hungry for. Not agreement. Not validation. Partnership in the pursuit of truth. Whatever that truth ends up being. They want someone who will push them to think harder, to see clearer, to grow beyond where they are. If you're the kind of man who needs to be right all the time, you'll exhaust her. If you're the kind of man who needs her to be right all the time, you'll bore her. But if you're the kind of man who can hold your own while also holding her hand through the hard conversations, you'll have her attention forever. I've seen it happen. A Sigma woman meets a man who isn't threatened by her mind, who actually enjoys the sparring, who shows up as a whole person with his own thoughts and feelings and convictions. And something shifts in her. She relaxes. She leans in. She thinks, finally, someone I don't have to translate myself for. That's the goal. Not to win her. To be someone she doesn't have to translate herself for. So here's what we've covered today. Rule 1. Check your ego at the door. She's not impressed by performances. She wants to know who you actually are when the show stops. Rule 2. Respect her fortress of solitude. Her space isn't rejection. It's how she loves you well. Rule 3. Master the art of intelligent challenge. Don't just agree. Engage. Grow. Push and be pushed. Dating a Sigma woman isn't easy. It requires a level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that most people never develop. But for the men who can rise to it, who can meet her in that rare space where two whole people choose each other without needing to complete each other, there's nothing like it. I've seen these relationships. They're not loud. They're not dramatic. They're two people sitting in a room, reading their own books, occasionally looking up to share something they found. They're two people having a disagreement that doesn't feel threatening because they both know the relationship is bigger than any one conversation. They're two people who've built something rare, a connection that doesn't require either of them to be smaller. Sigma ladies, I want to hear from you. What did I miss? What's the rule that matters most to you? Drop it in the comments. And to the alpha men still reading, still wondering if you're brave enough for this kind of love, the answer is yes if you want it. But wanting it isn't enough. You have to be willing to become someone capable of it. That's the work. That's the journey. And honestly, it's worth every step. I'm Spicy Lady. reminding you to stay fierce. See you in the next one.